I'll try to make this short since it's not really that intense of a story anyways. A number of years ago, I worked retail at an amusement park in New England. My job was basically to stock the 4 gift shops in the park, and to organize inventory when it came in. During my first day in the park, I was assigned to place price tags on some inventory of shot glasses. I was working in the upstairs area of the gift shop you were forced to walk through when you exited the park. The upstairs area was mostly storage, filled with boxes of clothes, and other items that were stocked in the store. It had an attic vibe, as it felt unfinished, with just a narrow path to the back, like a labyrinth filled with boxes. Anyways, my supervisor brought me upstairs, and showed me the simple task at hand, taking a sheet of price stickers, and placing them on each shot glass as I took them out of the box they were initially shipped in. Almost immediately after my supervisor left, I started feeling this insane sense that somebody was watching me. I've heard people say that in films and other stories, but this time I truly understood what it meant. I kept looking over my shoulder, and just wanted to get the F out of there. It's hard to convey in a story, especially to those who don't know me, but I have never been the type to be creeped out, and was certainly never the kid afraid of exploring stereotypical scary places. Every single hair on my body was standing straight up. I had a slight chill feeling in the dead of a hot and humid summer. This was a feeling I assume you wouldn't understand unless you have felt it before. It literally felt like the air was charged with electricity. I kept looking over my shoulder, not sure what I was even looking for. I proceeded with the job. I would take a sticker, put the barcode on a shot glass, and place it on a shelf in front of me. Once I stacked 5 on top of each other, I would create a new stack. Before I finished the first stack of shot glasses, I realized one had fallen off the shelf and shattered before me. The only thought I had at the time was I already broke something on my first day, but I had come to realize later, there is no reasonable explanation to how it fell in the first place. There were 4 shot glasses stacked on top of each other when this had happened. If one had fallen, the whole stack should have. Even after feeling strange energy the whole time, I wasn't thinking anything out of the ordinary was happening. I finished labeling the glasses, and went back downstairs to the actual store, relieved that I was out of there. There was an older woman in my department, who was working the register that day. I made a comment to her, "It's pretty creepy up there," without explaining what happened, and she simply responded with, "Yes it is, and it's very very haunted." I was suddenly hit with the terrifying realization that everything I felt had made sense. Like I said, I was never creeped out by much, and wasn't just assuming there was a paranormal presence near me. I never felt energy like that in my life, and honestly haven't since. More unexplainable creepy things had happened to me in the park, as well as in that store, but I never felt that strange feeling in the air again. To be honest, I'm still not sure to this day if I believe in ghosts, but that was a terrifying experience. Not on paper, and not even so much while it was happening, but every time I was forced to go back up there every day after. This isn't some crazy, impressive story, but I can assure you it is 100% true. And I can assure you that the glass that fell was on a stack. I later learned throughout my 3 years there that the park was rumored to be very haunted, as almost every employee there had a story similar to mine. My son, the one I've written about a couple of times, was just in the bathroom while I was in the bedroom. I heard a commotion and he came out of the bathroom and said, "Mommy, magic moved things on the counter." What? Then he follows up with, "An invisible person pushed me in my back." Again, what? I went into the bathroom and things were arranged quite strangely on the counter and he'd only been in there for a few seconds to use the bathroom. I asked if he moved those things and he said no, and then said again an invisible person pushed him in his back and it kind of scared him. He thought magic moving the things was pretty cool but was a bit weirded out by getting pushed. Who wouldn't be? I fixed the items back on the vanity and told him to tell whatever pushed him to stop and to leave him alone now and if it ever happened again. Edited to end, he said the items on the counter moved like they had slime on the bottom of them and they slid around. I thought this would be a pretty cool thing for everyone to read. I've worked at this vet clinic for 4 years now. There was a clinic cat named Jingles who ended up passed overnight. It was really sad for all of us. Jingles was a real character. Seriously mischievous little thing. She passed December 24, 2018. Ever since that day we all have had experiences with Jingles. I was the one who was working Christmas, so sadly I found her. I called my co-workers to come say bye and started filling out cremation paperwork. I walked away from the computer for a moment to just breathe, came back and there was a bunch of random letters where I was typing. Jingles was notorious for walking and laying on any keyboard she saw that was in use. Always was messing up her notes. I was speechless. I didn't even want to delete the letters. Couple weeks later, I'm alone taking care of the boarders for the weekend. I had these 4 small dogs who were always very good and pretty quiet. They would bark when I came in but quieted down when they realized it's me. So I come in, they bark for a couple minutes, then they calm down. I was finishing up mopping the floor around their kennels when 2 of them just go insane. They were both looking at the same area of the room, howling and barking like I've never heard them bark before. Jingles would stand right where they were looking and tease dogs. She was so unafraid of everything it worried me sometimes. I said, "Jingles, you troublemaker. Go to your bed." And like 30 seconds later they stopped barking and were totally fine. Had to be Jingles. I know these dogs well and they are very calm for the most part. This one is pretty funny. I smelled her ghost poop. Her poops were some of the nastiest smelling poops I've ever encountered, and I've smelled a lot of poops in my days. All I can say is her poops were foul enough to recognize. I walked into her old room where no cat has been in months to clean it up for the new cat we were going to bring in, and I was hit with her nasty poop stench. I've gone in there many times before to store things, so I know it wasn't always smelling like her poop. Even when she was alive it didn't always smell like her poop. I had my coworkers come in the room and they agreed it was her foul poop. Jingles took a little ghost dookie. I learned after this, our new clinic cat is Ramen. We constantly see him playing like there is another cat with him. He stands up on his hind legs swatting at nothing, acts like he's pouncing on something that isn't there, stalks something that isn't there. Pretty much everything 2 cats would do together is what we see Ramen do with nothing. It's pretty interesting to watch. We all agree Jingles is definitely still around. She knocks over alcohol bottles, swats Q-tips off the counters. Sometimes dogs on the table will have a reaction like a cat just jumped up next to them. Love you Jingles, you are in our one heck of a cat. I have lived in the same house my whole life. It's a small little one in mid-Minnesota with 6 kids living in it. I have a few personal experiences that make me believe that it is haunted. I have a couple memories of when I was younger that still do scare me a little. I used to share the upstairs bedroom with my older brother. The way it was set up is that the stairs lead from the main floor of the house into a big open upstairs room with no walls. One night I was unable to fall asleep for some reason, when out of nowhere I hear 5 or 6 very loud, stomping footsteps from the middle staircase. This freaked the F out of me for 3 reasons. 1. My bed is right next to the staircase, so there's no way it could have been my brother because I would have seen him walking towards the stairs too. The door was really loud, so I definitely would have heard it open. 3. The staircase is like 16 steps tall, so how and why could someone get halfway up without creaking the old floorboards, stomp 6 times, and just stand there? The second occurrence in that room, I believe I actually saw whatever is in my house. I woke up in the middle of the night to some sound coming from my right. I rolled over and saw a faint outline of someone who I assumed to be my brother. That was, until I heard him ask what I was doing from his half of the room. I glanced over to him and in the moment I took my eyes off of it was gone. That story still freaks me out. Luckily when I was 11 I got to move to the main level and got my own room. I only had 2 experiences I can remember in that room. I started collecting vinyls when I was 14, so my dad let me take his turntable into my room. I should also add that around the time I was 13 I developed a weird habit of waking up in the dead of night in extreme panic for no apparent reason, almost having full-on panic attacks. One night I had one of these, so I was laying awake wallowing in self-pity when I heard some unfamiliar clicks coming from the shelf I had the turntable on. I assumed that they were just house sounds and ignored them. But a few days later I went to throw on a record and I found the turntable and amplifier were both turned on. The needle for the turntable was even pushed towards the center of the table. My dad taught me to always turn everything off and to never leave it spinning to not wear out the belt. I've always been good at following this rule, so I have no idea how to explain how it got to that state. The second one wasn't as weird but personally a lot scarier. I had one of the most vivid nightmares I've ever had. I won't go into too much detail, but I will say some of the things I saw still horrify me to this day. Lucky for me I got awoken by someone softly saying hey. But when I woke up I also heard soft whispering coming from next to me. But when Jay checked no one was there. It could just have been me still being groggy, but it felt so more real than that. My brother moved out the same day I turned 15, I was very excited for this. But during the moving process I had the most vivid experiences that make me believe my house was haunted. The room is in the basement, so me and my dad had to bring my furniture downstairs for an hour or 2. During that time I decided to tell him about that turntable incident. He went silent and when I was finished he said, "I've been thinking the house was haunted for years." He went on to talk about his own experiences. I won't go into great detail. If you'd like more of the specifics you can ask me on the comments. He told me about how he found a big circular fan flipped upside down in an impossible way. How my brother had a Thomas the Tank Engine pillowcase and that he claimed the Thomas side gave him horrifying nightmares, and how he would get uncomfortable in the basement at random times for no particular reason at all. He also said that he believes the old owner of the house murdered her husband because he found a vial of poison hidden away in a rafter in the basement. While we were talking, I suddenly got the worst case of chills of my life. At the exact same time I got them, he stopped talking. I quietly muttered, "I just got chills," and he replied, "So did I." I have a couple experiences from the year I've spent in the basement. I'll say first that those weird panic things I got in the night have started to get much worse. It's become an almost weekly occurrence. The first one that comes to mind is how one night I woke up and heard a weird tapping sound. I realized that it was some pattern repeating itself, like Morse code. I ran upstairs and my dad was awake smoking a cigarette. I showed him an example of it and he said that it did defiantly sound like Morse. I don't remember what the code was, but I'll be looking through some texts I exchanged with my friend in an attempt to find it again. Other than that, I've just had the occasional things falling over and lights flickering for no reasons. I hope that someone takes the time to read this. I've always wanted to tell someone my experiences, but I always thought no one would believe me. If you did, I really appreciate it. If you've got questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Take care.